Hello everyone and welcome to the Darktrace AI webinar. My name is Amaka Obasi and I am the West Africa Channel Manager at Data Group IT. Darktrace and Data Group IT are so thrilled to have so many Darktrace Nigerian partners join us today. We truly appreciate you taking out time of your busy schedules to be here with us. Not to worry, this webinar promises to provide valuable insights and practical takeaways. While the webinar session is going on, please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A chat box. All the questions will be addressed during the Q&A session. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Damilola Ko, you have our attention for the introduction and overview. Damilola, could you please unmute? We cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now, Amaka?
Yes, loud and clear. Can every other person here, you could want to indicate on the chat or raise your hand up.
Okay. So my name is Damiko. I work for Data Group IT, and I'm the security product manager for Darktrace. Today we have Derek, technical channel manager from Darktrace for Middle East and Africa. We also have Ryan on the call, the senior account executive, and they are going to be discussing the Darktrace ActiveAI technology. We also have Bonisue, the channel manager for our region in this webinar, to answer any question or concerns you have from a partner perspective. Before I hand over to Ryan, I want to talk briefly about Data Group IT and the relationship between Darktrace and DGIT, as well as the value points we see from the Darktrace solution in our customers' environment today. Okay, so I'll start with Data Group and just give you a brief overview of the company. So what we do here is partner with a selection of established and emerging technology partners, vendors rather, across the globe. We are Africa's leading value-added distribution, and we provide solutions across market verticals for any business size across the African continent. Our product portfolio includes some of the solutions you see on the screen, from IT security to infrastructure and enterprise software solutions. We also have product experts in-house that can provide you with a complete end-to-end security framework using either on-prem, off-prem, hybrid solutions to help you implement what we call security by design. And then we are also able to fit the solutions that we have under our umbrella to your customers' required budget. Then to move into how Darktrace and DGIT work together and why the value propositions that we offer to most of our customers in this region. So if you look at that ever-changing or expanding IT landscape, customers that we deal with are facing challenges with probably their legacy and existing solution. So we saw Darktrace technology as complementary to those solutions. Not only do they strengthen them, but they also provide visibility for these solutions. So talking about visibility, Darktrace provides 100% visibility for the users, the network, the devices, the emails, the cloud environments, SaaS environments, and the IoTs, OT, SCADA environments. So if your customers are using or they have any critical infrastructure, this is key for us because we're able to actually fit Darktrace into those environments. And this is key to not only to understanding not only what is out of their environment, but more importantly, also identifying any lateral movement within the environment and helping them to stop it. And my last point around this value proposition is around automation. So if you look at Darktrace, it was built from the ground up using AI and machine learning. So this enables the platform to actually detect and respond to threats in real time. I know Derek and Ryan would expand on this more during their presentation. This was the value point that we see for most of the customers that actually buy the solution, again, in this region. Thank you. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Ryan. I'll stop sharing and hand over to Ryan at this point. Okay.
Thanks, Damiola. And yeah, thanks so much. I think it's the first time I've been involved in ensuring that our partners are all in one place. So really think sessions like this will be valuable, and certainly not going to be the first and only time we're going to be doing this. But as you would have seen, Darktrace has been in Nigeria for a couple of years now, but certainly growing on the upward trajectory. I mean, myself, who've played a big part in the last year and a half of building that brand with Data Group IT, I can certainly see the demand is on the rise. We can see that Darktrace is now becoming the conversations that CISOs are having more commonly, and the spaces we're playing in is relatively new in Nigeria, but certainly becoming something that we're taking on. And we really look forward to the sheer demand we're receiving. And I'd like to reiterate that CISOs are having conversations now about Darktrace and their readiness to trial and buy Darktrace. So that's really exciting. But to introduce myself, if you guys haven't met me before, I'm the Senior Account Executive here at Darktrace, based out of South Africa. I've been working in Nigeria for the last year and a half, very closely with Data Group IT, trying to come to country, at least, once every few months. So I've been there a few times now, and I've certainly, in the last couple of weeks, noticed that we certainly have made massive grounds in generating demand and making sure our partners are upskilled, and to ensure that the Darktrace name is flourishing, which I think it is. And yeah, about a year and a half ago, we were in our infancy, to be quite frank, in Nigeria. We had customers, but I think the demand is there now, and our partners, including your guys, everyone in this call today, we value you. That is my priority when I come to countries, not just customers, as our enabling our partners, because you are the face of Darktrace, right? When myself, Bonnie's not here, or Du, who's my counterpart in Nigeria, you guys are the face of Darktrace, right? And I certainly have seen a massive uptick in demand, and it's certainly it's a joint effort amongst ourselves, Data Group IT, and our partners. We really appreciate you. And what you'll notice, just as July has started, there's going to be a new partner program, which Bonnie will let you guys know. There's a massive involvement in that space, a massive emphasis from Darktrace and our channel organization around upskilling, ensuring partners are fairly compensated, and more importantly, is protecting you guys, right? So we'll touch on that a little bit later. But just where we've come from in Nigeria, where we're going to, we're certainly in a place that I'm really looking forward to what the future looks like, right? And yeah, just thanks to everyone. So what I'll do for the people that haven't met me before and interact with myself or my team before, what I'll do is I'll give you guys just a very, very brief understanding of Darktrace, where we've come to, where we're going to, the company itself, not just the technology. I think that's really important. The industries that we thrive in. I think Nigeria has made it very clear, there's a couple of industries that were more common than others, and I'd like to share that intel to ensure your guys' focus is very much aligned with ourselves. And then obviously the technology, right? We're ever expanding, we're ever innovating. So there's some new interesting stuff coming out of Darktrace. We just had our company kickoff for our new financial year yesterday or last night. There's some big movements in the Darktrace realm, right? And I think now is I'm really looking forward to what the next 6 to 12 months looks like for Darktrace and for you guys. And as you guys would have, having dealt with me in the past, hopefully you see massive opportunities as well, because I certainly do. But yeah, obviously just pop some questions in the chat if you guys do have some. As I said, I'll take you guys through a brief overview of the company, and then we'll talk about the technology in a second. Okay, so this slide is slightly out of date because we have grown since this slide was created a couple of months ago. We're a global company. We are HQ'd, as alluded to in the slide, in the UK, in Cambridge, but we are building a massive base in the US as well currently. All our executives are now becoming or are being hired from the US. And also we've got a relatively large footprint in Africa. I mean, we've got, as the vendor, as the OEM, more than 50 staff just sitting outside of South Africa. I think that speaks volumes that Africa is a huge part of our business. And I actually saw the stats on Thursday in terms of the business we built, and across all the countries, Nigeria is in third place behind, I believe, Ghana and obviously South Africa. So we want to get Nigeria to ensure that it's definitely exceeding Ghana and to be our second largest revenue generator in the region. So that's a really big push. And I'm certainly seeing bigger deals coming through as well from Nigeria. So new logos, but also higher value deals, which is quite exciting as well. But yeah, we're probably about 2,500 staff across the globe. As I said, all our contingency.
Ryan, sorry to interrupt. We can't see your slides. Are you sharing?
I haven't shared just yet, but now I'm going to do so. Thanks for the reminder. Okay. I haven't moved much, right? So as I said, yeah, we're about 2,500 staff globally, and HQ, as I said, in the US and the UK. And we are now touching on just under 10,000 customers globally, right? So this slide stipulates 8,100. So this is about 6 months ago. So we're about to touch that 10,000 customer mark. And in Africa, we probably sort of between 300 and 400 customers, of which Nigeria, we're probably just over 20. So there's massive growth opportunity just in Nigeria, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, so we're growing. I think in Nigeria we're becoming more relevant in these conversations, and as I said before, CISOs are looking forward to what's coming from Darktrace, and now we're becoming the industry standard, specifically in 2 or 3 areas. NDR, as you would have noticed, some of the financial institutions are now moving in that direction. So we're very much in line with that. So when you guys see RFPs coming out, know that Darktrace is certainly something you guys can bid for. And obviously email security as well. That's a big push for Darktrace. A lot of our customers in Nigeria are going email first, right? Because everyone experiences phishing. Everyone has concerns around spoofing, impersonations. So that is something that we can jump straight right into without having to build new budgets that are already set out for. But yeah, so Darktrace, in a nutshell, what are we? We pioneered AI in cybersecurity, right? So that is very much still what we are doing. We've been around for just over 10 years. We've got our market cap is now close to $5 billion. So growing nicely, but very much everything we do is around AI, right? The use of AI. We're not learning 5 years down the line how to incorporate AI in our business, which is what the industry is trying to do. We very much did from day one. Everything, all our technology, all our solutions, everything leverages AI to learn the uniqueness of the businesses that we protect, right? If you understand Darktrace in a nutshell, we're very much complementary, as Damir was saying. We're very much an additional critical layer of protection, right? We're not competing with many vendors in the space yet. Nigeria, very seldom there's competition, to be quite frank. All we competing for is ensuring we get in front of customers, right? So, and as I said before, everything we do is leveraging AI to learn the business, learn the users, learn the devices. And that's how we're able to proactively protect our customers, by understanding what is expected traffic, and then combating and protecting them from unexpected, unusual traffic that Darktrace learns from their environment, right? So that is globally the company. I would say Nigeria specifically, we thrive in obviously financial services, banking, obviously because of the CBN and where the regulatory authorities come in from. That's very much in line with what Darktrace does, right? NDR, email security, very much something that should be at least in the top 3 priorities for a CISO in Nigeria, right? So obviously that's a good starting point. Also fintech, we've recently closed a nice deal in that fintech space as well. Now more and more we're moving into government. So these areas are certainly more popular, not necessarily limited to, but if you're looking for demand, inevitably that's going to be a space that we are going to be able to thrive in, because those security budgets are slightly more mature. Those CISOs are proactively looking out for what's to come, as opposed to, protecting themselves from traditional threats. Okay. But that's the global company. As I said, our customer base is wide, industry wide. We've got some really good customers in Nigeria already. But this slide just speaks to the vast amount of different types of businesses that Darktrace protects. But as I said, in Nigeria, I would think we're focusing on 3 or 4 different industry segments for now, as we expand and build credibility in those industries. But I would say certainly financial services, government, that's where we're at right now. That is where the demand really resides for now. I think, come next year, we're going to start expanding potentially into retail, into other segments in Nigeria. I'm just alluding to what's happening at the moment. So why do we exist, right? As Darktrace, right? Why? I mean, the cyber industry is absolutely massive, right? And if I was a new partner coming into Darktrace and wondering, okay, who are our competitors? To be quite frank, guys, I actually used to work at a channel partner a couple of years ago now. What you can assure yourselves is that the competition is limited, right? Because it's something that is new, and that the world is moving in this direction. But I would say, if you're coming across competition, it's few and far between. There's maybe a handful of companies that Darktrace is concerned about, but to be honest, it's something that is a massive opportunity, right? Competition is not there, right? We are the largest NDR company in the world, right? We're the most established. We've got the most people in Africa in this space, right? So we very much we're the ones that in the spaces that we play, we're the ones that competitors want to compare themselves to. But as a channel partner, I would be so excited that the opportunities to push Darktrace into customers are there. There's limited competition, and because we've got such a great name for ourselves in the industries that we play in, the conversion rates are relatively high, in Nigeria. Now, in the last 6 months, it's actually been really good, so I think the opportunity is rife and the competition is limited, right? So let's continue to use this opportunity to build the business. But the reason that the competition is limited is because this is something that is new, and threats, specifically alluding to the slide, is these threats are evolving, right? Competitors, cybersecurity companies have always focused on what happened yesterday, right? That is the way security companies, even to this day, they still prioritize what happened yesterday, right? If somebody has picked up a threat on their email system or on their network and they report it, that is the business model of most cyber vendors, right? Is picking up what's already happened, right? A nice example is that, let's say, talk about criminals just for a second, right? A simple analogy is that traditional vendors are only looking out for criminals who already have criminal records, right? Now, that is good and well. Obviously, catching criminals that have been caught before, that's obviously is necessary, right? That's what firewalls do. That's what antiviruses do, right? But it leaves massive gaps for people that haven't been caught before, right? When I say people, I mean attackers, right? So that is the role that we play as Darktrace, is catching the criminals, or catching the cyber attackers or the hackers that haven't been caught and reported before, right? That is our priority number one. And what they call this in the industry is unknown threats, right? Is novel threats, is things that haven't been seen before, right? That is our bread and butter, right, at Darktrace. So how you position the technology is very much as an additional layer of protection. We very seldom compete, as I said before. We're very much going to be there to support over and above a customer's traditional controls, right? So also where the world is moving, right? Everyone is either moving into the cloud or deploying some sort of hybrid environment, right? There's devices that are connected there's like hundreds of different types of devices now. 10 years ago, it was laptops and it was desktops and maybe mobile phones, right? Now there is, all types of IoT devices that connect to the internet, right? If there is a connection to the internet, let's say from a smart TV or a biometric scanner or whatever it may be, right? Those devices connect to the internet, which means there is an opportunity for an attacker to exploit, right? So basically, the risk has just quadrupled over the last couple of years, right? And customers and businesses are struggling to keep up, right? And we as Darktrace are very much perfectly prepared for this opportunity, because we're not an agent-based system, right? We don't need to be deployed everywhere. Darktrace deploys once and ingests traffic from everywhere, right? Ensuring that customers are protected wherever they may reside, whatever devices they use, right? So there's no limitation on how Darktrace is deployed, or are we deploying agents? No, it's not the business that we're in, right? We are a business and a technology that learns and understands the uniqueness of the business or the users that we're protecting. And that's how we're able to understand what abnormal behavior looks like. And then we can proactively protect our customers from that abnormal behavior without ever having to look out for specific threats. We're not looking out for criminals that have already been caught. We're looking out for the guys that haven't been caught. Okay. So that is the role that we're fulfilling at Darktrace, right? We're going to be an additional layer of protection. So when a customer says, Ryan, I've got something in place, I don't need Darktrace. Quite simply, they don't understand Darktrace, because there isn't something that compares to us, right? There might be some new competitors playing in the space, that's fine, but it's certainly not the case in terms of the customer having something that we can provide. So when somebody says, we've got this, we're covered, we don't need Darktrace, they don't know Darktrace. And that is why we desperately need to be in front of these customers to educate them. Because inevitably what happens is that we will get a phone call because something has occurred, and now they begin to understand. Okay. If there's any questions in the chat, Amaka, please relay it to me. Okay, so. And sorry,
okay, so somebody has sent a question.
Yeah.
Shegun Adeoti said, are there levels of partnership with Darktrace, and do all partners benefit from equal discounts and from pricing perspective? I think Bonisime may have to address that during the Q&A session.
Yes, 100%. Amaka, that'll be referred to by Bonnie, but I'm not going to touch on the detail, but if you're bringing an opportunity to Darktrace and that actually moves the needle, we're going to protect you. Okay, I like to play incredibly fair for our partners. I do not want partners bidding against each other. I want to make sure that everyone makes money here, right? But it's all about bringing value, right? We're not in the business of, Darktrace just giving leads and then people responding to those leads. We want our partners, our channel, to bring something, and then we'll protect you, right? And you would have seen it yourselves dealing with us. We are very fair and we want value. That's all we want, right? Is that there's value and clear value from the engagements that you guys are bringing us. That's all we can ask for, right? I do not want to have a situation when 5 partners are trying to outbid each other, because no one's going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy. Data Group is not going to be happy. We want leads to be brought, leads to be qualified, and then you're inevitably protected, so you don't have to worry. But there are levels coming out. Bonnie will allude to that. And that's going to be about accountability, right? It's about ensuring that those leads are coming and that effort is being put in. Okay. Okay, so I already did touch on this quite heavily, but the business that Darktrace is in, what we do very differently is we focus on understanding the customer, right? The AI will learn the uniqueness of the business, right? The way we protect a bank is very different to how we protect a retail company, right? That's how Darktrace does really well. This is the sales pitch, is Darktrace understands you, right? It understands what is expected of you and proactively protects you from unusual behavior that isn't deemed to be you, right? That could be in any institution, right? So we will learn your business and apply appropriate action to what we deem to be unusual for your business. We're not comparing different companies. We're not taking data from another customer and applying it to the customer. Every business is unique, right? And that's how we approach security. Every user is unique, and Darktrace will learn those unique elements and proactively protect you from those unique things. Okay. And then I'll bring you to, this is actually a nice little marketing slide. I'm gonna move on to this briefly because we've recently just changed, and I think our new slides are quite nice. But this is just speaking to the Darktrace brand. Give me a second, what they refer to as the cyber AI loop, right? We're moving away from this type of branding, and I like where we're going, right? We're trying to simplify everything, right? And guys that are familiar with the loop, that's perfectly fine. It's not disappearing, but we're evolving, right? And I'll touch on that in this other slide that I've got. Okay. You guys can still see, right? I could just confirm that you guys can see the slide.
Yes, we can see this slide. Please, before you proceed, everyone,
Yes.
could you please use the Q&A chat box for your questions? That way, your questions are not lost in the course of the conversations on the other chats. The Q&A chat box is beside the chat on your right. Kindly use it for questions, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Amaka. Yeah, of course, guys. Not to say this is the only time we're going to be answering questions, but please, let's make it interactive. I know I used to work as a channel partner. I know the pros and cons, right? So please, if you guys can just put a question, we'll happily address it, either myself or Bonnie or Derek from our side. But this is what they call the Darktrace ActiveAI security platform, right? Okay. Now, marketing aside, right? I will let you know how we go to market. Okay, so quite simply, we have a 2 or 3 phased approach, right? My emphasis with our channel partners is focus on phase 1, right? That is our go-to market. This is what they call the foundational products of Darktrace, right? Now, I know this is new language, but we literally spoke about this last night in our new company platform, right? Our foundational products is what we desperately need the channel to support us in, right? The foundational products of Darktrace is the ones you're familiar with, is Darktrace Network, is Darktrace for email, right? This is what they refer to as the foundational products of Darktrace. So that's referring to detection and response across multiple product sets. Okay. In Nigeria, I would say the most common are these 2, Darktrace for Network, which is the NDR component, Darktrace for email, that is going to be more addressing email security risks, right? That is what we refer to as our foundational products, right? Those are our go-to market. That is your phase 1, right? When you talk about phase 2, phase 3, that's when we start talking about Darktrace Prevent, Darktrace Heal, Darktrace Services. These are the second phase of Darktrace, which is basically, I've already got a customer that's deployed Darktrace on the network. How can we improve and harden their defense? This is when we start talking about services. This is when we start talking about how can we help customers recover? How can we help customers address their underlying weaknesses? That is what Darktrace Prevent and Darktrace Heal is contained about. We're not going to be spending much time today on that, but all you need to know is our foundational products, Darktrace Detect and Respond for email, Darktrace Detect and Respond for network, is the responsibility I'm putting upon my channel team right now. Okay, so nothing is going to change. We're not complicating how we go to market. That is just my ask of you, is to talk to new customers about Darktrace for network, Darktrace for email, and so on, right? That is our bread and butter. As customers begin to come on board, we'll extend other products like Prevent and Heal to them as a phase 2. Okay, just so you guys can understand the difference. Now, I'll explain to you guys the foundational products in a demo shortly. But Prevent is quite simple, right? Prevent is the second phase of your Darktrace journey, right? Once you've solved one of the two components of Darktrace, then we're going to start talking to our customers about Prevent. Prevent is around understanding their weaknesses, right? Whether that be internal, right, or external. So that is what they refer to as Prevent E2E or end-to-end, or Prevent attack surface management. Basically, it's just giving Darktrace context about where attacks are going to come from based on those weaknesses, those vulnerabilities, right? That is Prevent in a nutshell, okay? That is, as I said, that is phase 2 of Darktrace. These are not for new customers. And then lastly is around Heal. Heal is around emphasis on recovery. How quick can Darktrace help customers recover from cyber incidents? Okay, that is phase 2 of Darktrace. Okay, so we're not going to be emphasizing that today, because if you've got existing customers with us, obviously Prevent and Heal is the most logical next steps. If you don't, let's speak purely about Darktrace, the foundational products, which is the detection and response side. Okay, so that's what they're combining everything to call it the ActiveAI security platform. The narrative behind that is that we want to, as Darktrace, be the proactive security suite for the customer without them having to intervene and having to set policies, without having to configure. Everything is around automation and Darktrace, right? We don't want the customer to be logged in every day, all the time. We want them to rely on the AI to detect and respond to threats, right? Without them having to configure anything, right? So that's why we don't charge professional services, because I'll get the question now, Jeremiah, but everything we do is to ensure that the customer is protected, but not having to work on the platform, excessively every single day. We're trying to make their lives easier, not harder. All right. Okay. Yes, question. Jeremiah, you there? Okay, I'll move on swiftly. I didn't hear Jeremiah. I think he did hold his hand up.
He can actually type it in the Q&A.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, please do that. Okay, so that is the platform. That is what we're going to market with, guys. As I said, separate the foundational products from the phase 2 products, which are called innovation products. Okay, that's the new language we're using. It's just enabling you guys to not get confused, right? As a vendor, we want to keep it very simple and clear in how we go to market. Any new customer, we're only going to emphasize on these foundational products. That's it. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to jump now to the user interface, to the demo platform, guys. I'm sure some of you would have seen it before. There has been some tweaks and changes, but for the most part, it's quite simple. And it's a user interface that's supposed to be easy to use, right? It's not built to ensure customers have to spend hours and hours and hours on the system, right? It's the system is built to make everything easy for the customer to understand. Okay. So let me actually share my screen. Okay, just share it again. Just on Marco, just let me know if there's any questions in the chat. Thanks.
I have a message in the chat, but I think Bunny will also have to address that too. It says, "Thank you, Ryan. I'd like to know more about new improvements and updates to Darktrace."
Cool. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll certainly emphasize a lot on that. Okay. So yeah, so this is the active or AI active security platform, right? That is included of multiple products, right? I'm going to show you 2 or 3 today, right? Everything is accessible from the same interface, right? So if you want to go and look at, phishing concerns or email security related examples, just go over here, Darktrace email. What we've also got is the SaaS console, which again is just a different type of product. Everything is viewable from one dashboard, right? Again, this is incredibly useful purely based on the fact when customers are concerned that they've got too many tools and too many tools doing different things. What we want to do as Darktrace is simplify their lives and integrate on their existing investments into Darktrace, right? And have less windows, right? We don't want more tabs, we want less tabs. And we're not going to be a situation where we an isolated product. We're going to be a product that's going to be fit into the ecosystem, right? And not just be something that is a standalone service. Okay. But you'll notice about the platform, everything is lean, everything is simple, and it's not too much information going on, because we want to ensure that that whoever's interpreting, whoever's logging into Darktrace as the customer is only seeing what's necessary, not what's not necessary. Okay, so a couple of things I'll touch on. This is the network interface. As I said before, the other products like email and SaaS I can click on that. I'll show you guys that next. But what's really important, all these systems talk to one another, right? So again, if we're seeing a phishing link, Darktrace for network will also interact with that phishing link. So for example, if I go into my emails right now in Outlook and I click on a link that seems to be legitimate but isn't, Darktrace will block it on the mail, but Darktrace for network will also look at that URL and interpret it as a phishing link and basically proactively block that URL from anyone in the network as well, right? So that is why that ecosystem is so powerful, right? It's not just a standalone service. It's going to enrich everything else, right, by having multiple product sets, right? So what we're trying to do with Darktrace is make a customer have less tools, not more. Okay. So on the left-hand side, it's very simple. It's just a summary of what Darktrace is seeing, right? And basically, it's going to give you an idea of what your situation looks like, right? I'll lean on Derek for when it's his turn to speak about the deployment, how it works, the architecture slightly for the engineers on the call, but also everything, guys. Maybe I haven't emphasized this enough. Everything we do generally starts with the proof of value, right? Which is the POV. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar. That is how we sell Darktrace, right? Very seldom are there situations where the customer just trusts Darktrace outright. Generally, there's a POV. There are exceptions, right? Of course. If a customer's seen Darktrace before, he doesn't need to POV it again if he understands and trusts the solution, right? But for more often than not, there's inevitably going to be a pilot of Darktrace for the customer so they can see the value, right? Now, it's incredibly easy process to set up. Either it's going to be done virtually or it's going to be done with hardware. It all depends on the customer's scope, right? If they're a traditional on-premise customer where there's going to be hardware involved, it's totally free of charge. It's 1 month long. But that is where the sale happens, guys. That is where they start to worry about their security. That is where they start to worry that they actually need more security in place, right? The POV is where everything starts and ends, right? And that is how I want to go to market in Nigeria. There's no limitations, right? As long as the customers are preferably above about 100 to 150 users, there's no limitations, right? If they're smaller than that, we can have a conversation, right? But that is our target market, 200 employees and above, right? Okay, but yeah, the POV is everything, right, to Darktrace, because we build reports, we understand their weaknesses, we understand their threats, and we show the customer and they get to use the tool, right? They start to get dependent on the tool. So when they are trying to, when that POC and that pilot ends and they're not ready, they want more time with Darktrace while they go through the procurement process, right? So it's a tool that they love. It's a tool that everyone can agree that is where they want to be but maybe they're not ready yet, right? That is the job of us in the channel to ensure they are ready. Okay. POV, guys, please. There's always been our go-to-market. That is very much the case. Okay. Okay, so just continuing on. As I said, on the left-hand side, it's just a summary of what's going on, right? What's really nice about this, what they call the Darktrace funnel, right? Ordinarily, if a customer is like a bank or has multiple tools in place, they usually are used to receiving hundreds, potentially thousands of alerts, right? Because that's how they configured their security tools, right? They'd rather see everything, but get every alert, which inevitably leads them to be tired and they start missing things. It's like when you get like a CEO who gets thousands of mails per day, you start to ignore them, right? And that is where the risk lies, when you start ignoring alerts. So what Darktrace is incredibly good at is only showing you what's necessary, right? So that's when it gets to the 4 and the 3 number. They're not going to have to go through 7,500 alerts anymore. With Darktrace, what's happened is the AI has learned, is understood what is expected for individual users based on that learning period, right? That learning is ever ongoing, right? So we're not to say the learning stops. It absolutely doesn't stop. It continues. But I would say after 1 week, Darktrace is going to be maybe 75% accurate. After a month, we're going to be 90% accurate. After 2 months, we're 100% accurate, right? So with the time, Darktrace will learn and adapt and understand what is expected, right? Now, this is where it gets very clever to understanding only showing you what is now necessary, right? Because if Darktrace learns what Ryan does on a given day, it's able to identify what is genuinely illegitimate or dangerous traffic because it understands me, understands who I interact with, it understands how I interact with the network, it understands what connections my device does every single day. And then it's able to pick up on the subtle changes. Maybe there's a new login from Russia, or maybe there's a new device, or maybe I'm doing something that I don't usually do, like try to download some information off our finance server, maybe some payroll information. That's something that Ryan doesn't usually do. That is how we approach the problem, right? It's about understanding the business, understanding the users, and applying proportionate action to their what is deemed to be unusual for them. Okay, so immediately, as I speak to a CISO, I said, look, Mr. CISO, you're only going to have to look at 3 things today. Immediately they go, okay, what's the catch? When they ask you that question, which inevitably comes, push them to the POV, right? Because they'll see it themselves. Okay, so that's why the Darktrace funnel is so important. It speaks to how much noise the Darktrace is getting through to get you to show you what's important. Okay, so that is the summary. I like to just show the customer, look how easy your job is going to be going forward, or at least in Darktrace. Okay. Again, if I just scroll down, this is just the categories of threats, right? So obviously data exfiltration, ransomware, command and control. This is just the categories, and it's all backed by the MITRE ATT&CK tactics framework, which is just a common global framework that security personnel use to identify threats. Okay. And then lastly, it's just, okay, what is the size of this customer? What is their scope? This is where that is reviewed. Okay. And then lastly is just how many times Darktrace took an action. Okay. So that's the summary side of the slide. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It's not tons of logs. It's just showing the customer what they need to see. Okay. And then over here, the world map, very simple. Darktrace, once it's plugged in, it'll start to pop up with lights about where this customer resides. Okay. So quite simply, if you've got a Nigerian customer that only has offices in Nigeria, you're going to see a little light pop up over here. Okay. If they're a global company, you're going to start to see lights pop up depending on their offices and how they where they reside. Okay. What's to note about this is that when you start to see warm colors, right? This is when Darktrace says, okay, well, these offices or these locations are acting more suspicious than others, right? So this maybe is the global HQ for this customer. If you click on the button, you can actually start to see the subnets, right? So basically, the network is now segmented, and you can start to see, okay, well, clearly this subnet, maybe the subnet is the corporate LAN or whatever it is, whatever the particular subnet resides, we immediately know what is showing the most concern, cutting out a lot of time, investigation time, showing the customer immediately what is concerning. Okay, the colder colors are pretty normal stuff, like Darktrace says, you're okay, you don't need to worry about this. It does all the threat hunting for you. So Darktrace automates most of the threat hunting already for the customer. So again, less time on Darktrace. That is what we want. We don't want the customer dependent to be logged in 24/7 because we know skills are limited. Time is limited, right? So in this case, as we mentioned before, this customer only has 4 alerts for an entire week, right? Now, if you're a bank or you're a government institution, if you've got 4 alerts, you immediately jump to what is the catch? Well, quite simply, because Darktrace relies heavily on the machine learning component, right? It understands what is expected. So even if let's say, if there's a new location that a user is logging in from, but after that location, after that authentication, that user continues to do exactly what he normally does, that is fine, right? Because he's still the same person, just on a business trip. But Darktrace says it's okay, so we don't need to alert you to that. But if that user now logs in from a new location at a strange time of day, from a new device, and then manages to log in, and then starts to download data from a service that they don't usually interact with, that's when Darktrace starts taking action. That is when Darktrace starts to become confident that this is a genuine threat. Okay, so this is the 4 alerts over here, is Darktrace saying there's an element of confidence that we are saying, we want you to be aware of this, Mr. Customer. We've blocked these threats, but we want to make you aware of who's coming after you. Okay, but immediately, guys, a customer that only has 4 alerts in a given week, they ask you what is the catch. That's a good thing because they desperately want something that can do this, right? Okay, so I'll just show you one example, guys. It's not complicated, right? So what this tray, this is called this is going to be your priority number 1, right? As a customer, this is going to be where your risk lies, right? Darktrace has said there's 4 examples of traffic or users or devices that are showcasing quite concerning activity. We have made the necessary blocks, but we want you to be made aware of it, right? Just to see which controls have been exploited. So I'll pick out this example. This is the ransomware example, right? Okay, so what you'll notice is a couple of things. But everything that Darktrace is making you aware of is just to tell a story, right? It's not asking you to go investigate yourself. It's telling you exactly what happened, who was affected, what time did it happen, where did it happen. Literally, it's pointing to exactly what happened. Now, if you're a CISO and a SOC analyst and a security engineer, these, just in order for you to get to this point, this probably would have taken days or weeks, right? But Darktrace does all of the correlation, everything without any rules or any parameters, nothing. It just learns, it understands, and then it's able to investigate and respond to threats without the customer having to do anything. No policies. You can configure Darktrace, but it's not necessary, right? So basically, what's happened here is Darktrace picked out that this user is acting a bit out of character, right? Out of the ordinary. The reason we picked this up is because he's running a scan, right? In the case of scanning, that is okay. Scanning is just there to, generally for an IT person to figure out, okay, which ports are open, for example, which routes can attackers exploit to get to some vulnerable services, right? That's what scanning is used for. It's for identifying who can take advantage of what and how. Now that's okay, but what if it comes from a person that doesn't usually do it? Now, that is something that's very difficult to configure on the firewall because you're going to have to say scanning is allowed, but only for these people. And then what if there's a new person that joins, right? Or what if there's always limitations around policies. There's always if you put 100 rules in place, guess what? there's going to be a user that phones you and says, please unblock this thing, I need to use it. Guess what? Then once you've unblocked it, there goes your control. Right now, there's a gap that's opened up. Darktrace doesn't use that approach. Darktrace just turns the problem around to focus on what is normal versus what is not normal. Okay, that is how we approach the problem. So this guy, basically, he did a few things on his device the Darktrace deemed to be unusual. Firstly, it was run a scan. Secondly, he was trying to transfer a file across the entire network. So basically, trying to infect as many people as possible, right? Which in this case, he wasn't aware. It wasn't like he was an insider. In this case, he wasn't aware that his device was infected. 9 times out of 10, the user does not know what's going on in the background, unless you're an IT person. If I'm infected right now, more often than not, I'm thankful that Darktrace is there to protect us, but I won't know what's going on, right? So in this case, we saw a file trying to be transferred. Basically, this was the dangerous file. And the control failure here was that the antivirus missed it. Now, the reason the antivirus misses these things is because they can't catch everything, because then they would start blocking legitimate things. And once they start blocking legitimate things, that's when business disruption occurs. For example, last week with CrowdStrike, right? As much as you say you want to block everything, it's not possible, because as soon as you start blocking legitimate stuff, you bring legitimate services down, right? So the way Darktrace approaches that is not to immediately block this thing because it recognizes as a bad file. We're just saying this user does not usually share this file to 100 people across the company. That is how we approach the question. Not, has this file been identified by someone as malicious before? Okay, that is how we approach the problem. That is why it's so important that Darktrace takes context into the situation. And then lastly, so what happened, just the chain of events. Scanning, basically the scan was run on this guy's device. That scan was trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get and infect as many people as possible? Point 2 was, okay, well, I now know how I'm going to infect. I know the users I can infect. Okay, well, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to try and send them this file. That's point 2. Now they've retrieved these files, and now it wants to execute and hit the ransomware, right? Now, that is now point 3. Once those files have been downloaded and shared amongst everyone, Darktrace recognizes, okay, well, now we start to see some communication to the outside world from this user's device. So this is basically the attacker. The attacker is now communicating with the software to say, okay, we've arrived, now go cause damage. Darktrace doesn't say this host is bad. We're not saying this is a criminal. We can clearly see this is a criminal. We're just saying, again, that this is not normal for this user. He's never ever been to this website before. No one in the entire company has been to this website before. Okay, that is the context. That is the context that Darktrace needs to say, okay, clearly something is going weird today. Let's actually just proactively block this website. Okay, so that is why Darktrace is so important. It gets an understanding of the bigger picture, right? What happened before, but also understand what the context of the user, right? Does he usually interact with this website? Has he ever before, right? And also, has he ever shared these files before? In all these examples, this is not normal for him. Darktrace says, okay, we're going to block every attempt of unusual activity for this particular user, preventing the ransomware. And what's really nice about this is that we don't have a blacklist. We don't need to be patched. Darktrace automatically does this without the customer having to configure anything. Again, customers want to be protected, but they also want to have their workload reduced, right? So that is how we approach the problem. Again, very simple. Plug and play, learn, understand, and then block based on those understandings, based on those the understanding what the user usually does versus what Darktrace deems to be unusual. Okay, guys, I am on my end. I'm going to be closing off shortly. I'll happily take you through one example, maybe on the email console. But if there's any questions, obviously load them in the chat. We can also, Bonnie and Derek can also help with that. But guys, just before on my end, Darktrace is the technology people aspire to want to have, right? There's never been a situation when I've done a POV and the customers firstly is paying attention, number one. There's never been a situation where Darktrace, they don't want Darktrace, right? It's not like they're saying, no, we're fine, we're okay. The security staff always inevitably wants Darktrace, right? So that should be something that you guys should hone in on, that you've got to be confident they're going to want what you have to offer. When it comes down to commercials, we will handle that, right? But the most important point is for you guys to get them to see the technology, and then we can move on to commercials and to see if there's a deal on the cards or not. But more often than not, guys, no one has been not impressed by Darktrace. Everyone is now, in Nigeria specifically, is now talking about us. There's these CISO events. We are now becoming the topic of discussion. So it's up to you as the face of Darktrace in Nigeria to ensure that they can continue, right? But yeah, on my end, guys, I mean, I can show you other components, but very simply, it's very much the same. On the email console, it's the same. It's a lot more simple, and it's going to be picking up malicious emails, and we compete in that space very well. So I'm assuming your customers have maybe competing brands. Obviously, we can POC or POV Darktrace products against them. Whatever works for you guys. For me, the quickest deals right now have been email security, because again, it's obviously a problem. NDRs components are the bigger deals, the ones that are slightly longer, right? Because obviously there's potentially budget needs to be planned for. But email security, the money's already being spent. Let's just switch on their expense to Darktrace instead, right? And the POV will make them confident they're making the right choice. Okay, on my end, guys, I think I'm concluding. I've spoken for a long time. Yeah, if there's any questions for me, please let me know. Otherwise, thanks, Amaka.
Thank you, Ryan.
Time.
Yeah, thank you. There are 3 questions for you. So Taiwo asked 2 questions. The first is that he would like to know what sets Darktrace aside from all existing security platforms, especially in the financial sector. Do you want me to read both of his questions, or you want to take it one at a time?
I'll answer that quite simply. Yeah, so one at a time. So the entire industry has one approach, which is scanning content, right? They scan content, they compare it to what they've seen before, and that's how they take proportionate action, right? That's good. Obviously, you need to stop things that have been stopped before, but it does not account for new threats, new techniques, right? If I'm a hacker today, what I'm going to do is leverage existing infrastructure. Like, for example, I'm seeing a lot of threats come through on legitimate SharePoint sites, legitimate Azure infrastructure, legitimate OneDrives, right? So when they're doing the scan, it's just a OneDrive link, right? You can't prove that their OneDrive link is malicious unless the payload is shared or downloaded, right? So that approach is good, but it's only going to stop the vast majority of known threats. It struggles with unknown threats. Darktrace, the way we approach it is very different. It's all about context, right? Does Ryan usually download or have a trusted relationship with this supplier? Does Ryan have a relationship with, or has Ryan ever visited this website before? So we approach the problem differently. It's all about context. Is this email or is this file that's been downloaded something that Ryan or the business ever interacts with? That's how we approach the problem, right? And then once Darktrace has made its first decision, let's say it allows that email to go in because let's say it looks okay. Darktrace for network will start to monitor the network traffic that let's say if that file executes and starts to talk outside, Darktrace will start to see, okay, in context, is this normal or not, right? It's all got to do with context, right? That's what we're very good at. The industry prioritizes known threats, which is things that have been reported reported on before, right? That's the difference between the two. And also, we're not comparing ourselves to firewalls. We're not comparing ourselves to antivirus. So actually, we know you need those tools. We're just saying we want to assist them when inevitably they miss something. Okay, Amaka, go ahead.
Thank you. I think you partly answered Taiwo's second question that says, what happens in a unique situation where Darktrace has actually flagged an unusual action, but the action is actually valid?
Again, so
should I take it
good
again?
question. Yes, no, it's perfect. Yeah, so I get that question every single day of my life. So firstly, Darktrace learns, right? So it'll understand. So let's say day one, it's going to be incorrect. Day 7, it's going to start to be 80% correct. Day 30, it's going to be 90% correct, right? So that is so important, right? The learning, understanding what is expected. But nothing is perfect. What Darktrace allows you is to revoke a block immediately via the app if we make an incorrect decision. But because of the learning, those errors happen fewer and fewer. And don't take it from me. Take it from a customer that uses Darktrace to see. They will admit initially it might flag some things that are a little bit that are okay. Let's say somebody flying to the US for a business trip. It might be unusual, but not necessarily malicious. Darktrace will address its own issues. It's going to start pick up, okay, well, we see Ryan traveling to Lagos every 3 months. Okay, now we're starting to pick up that it's normal. So over time, Darktrace is able to address its own issues without you guys having to configure anything. But nothing's perfect. If we make something that looks very dangerous but isn't, you can just revoke it. Not whitelist, because whitelist means that you can allow that person to do something they shouldn't. It's just saying, in that context, that behavior is okay. But we're not whitelisting a user, because as soon as you whitelist a user, guess what? They can turn on you, right? So Darktrace doesn't use whitelists. Darktrace just says that behavior for that user for that time is okay for now, and you can revoke that block if need be.
Thanks, Brian. Ayo says, how long does it take to train the AI initially? And what is the initial process? Is uploading data required?
Okay, so I'll be high level, and then Derek can get into the details. Any proof of value, standard terms is 7 to 10 days of learning, right, from plug and play. As I said before, machine learning is ever improving. You'll notice that day 7 looks very different to day 30. Obviously, because 7 days of learning is going to be far weaker than 30 days, right? But standard to start any POV is 7 to 10 days of learning, right? There's no data being uploaded from the cloud, nothing. Everything happens on the Darktrace instance, right? There's no threat intel being pushed to Darktrace. Darktrace just protects you through the appliance itself. If it's on the hardware, if it's in the cloud, we have a virtual instance. But there's no data coming back and forth. Literally, the customer, everything sits on the device itself.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Victor has another question for you. He says, in terms of email, is AI the only technology behind the Darktrace solution? Where does Darktrace sit in terms of intercepting and scanning of threats on email?
Good question. So we have basically a 2 or 3 pronged approach. Unsupervised machine learning, which basically means no one teaches Darktrace to do anything, right? That is the vast majority of our AI, right? It learns on the job. It doesn't require Ryan to tell Darktrace to look out for anything. But we know that could cause, if you're just reliant on that could cause unnecessary noise. The other component is supervised machine learning. So Darktrace is going to also then, with its algorithms, stipulate what bad might look like, right? So it's a combination of two. More likely it's going to be the unsupervised, but Darktrace will know what a phishing link looks like without scanning it, based on the context, for example. So it's a 2-pronged approach, but vast majority of the machine learning is done unsupervised, which means no one's teaching it to do anything. Supervised, sure, Darktrace will know what a phishing link might look like, what a spoofed mailbox might look like, or spoofed sender might look like. Derek, you can also chime in here as well if you want to get into the details.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I think with email, as you rightfully said, we rely on a combination of different techniques depending on what we're monitoring for. So a lot of it, like you said, would be unsupervised machine learning, where we're learning from the behavioral elements of interactions between users, internally, externally. And then there is the ability to also customize that learning in terms of model editing or creating your own custom models that can help to pick up on certain elements around, for example, data loss, for instance, or integrations with Microsoft Purview to pick up on some of the classification tags there as well. So it's really depending on the use case that we're looking out for that determines the method for detection there. We also do a little bit of sandboxing. We're looking at attachments and links, which also influences our detection as well.
Cool. Thanks, Derek. Any other questions, Mark?
None on the chat box for you. Another question.
Cool. Then on my end, guys, just appreciate everyone's time. We're going to do this regularly. So I think that's important. But on my end, I'm okay. We've got Derek up next, and then Bonisiwe will be following shortly after that. But really good to see we've got a big amount of people on the call today, and hopefully you guys will use this intel to go approach your customers and understand the value, right? But again, POV before anything. You will understand, you'll be confident yourselves once being embedded in your own POVs with us. Then you can pitch Darktrace how you want it based on the insights. But other than that, good to see everyone, and yeah, address all questions to the rest of the team. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks Ryan for that nice summary. Just to reintroduce myself, guys, my name is Derek Mashoshere. I am the technical channel manager at Darktrace. I hope my face is coming out on the screen. What I'll touch on at this point is just to give you a nice break from the technical bits, and then touch on our enablement program, which we would hope to bring a lot of you on to really ensure that you're able to position Darktrace correctly in the market, right? So I'll give you a quick summary of that enablement program, and then we'll touch on very quickly how we deploy Darktrace as well. All right, so I know we've got the technical team in the session, so we want to ensure that they're also taken care of. So we'll go a little bit technical, but we also hope to ensure that in the future we have more in-depth technical sessions. All right, so I will share my screen, and then you can just confirm if it's coming through, and then we can jump right in. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, brilliant. So from a technical standpoint, we obviously want to ensure that our partners are an extension of Darktrace, meaning you're able to very confidently engage customers around our platform, whether it's from a sales standpoint or pre-sales. So we have a full enablement program that comes at no cost that you guys can participate in. The idea with that is, firstly, ensure that you're able to run your own demos, you're able to pitch Darktrace, but also in cases of running the pre-sales process or building services around our technology, adding your own services wrap, you're able to very effectively do so. So a lot of the training that you'll find around the Darktrace partner enablement program will be on the partner portal. We're currently releasing our new partner portal as well, so we're quite excited about that. But currently, you're actually able to go on there, get a lot of useful material in terms of case studies, in terms of deployment guides, and then actual courses that you can participate in that cover different key areas around our platform. So we also have tools that are designed specifically for managed service partners that they can use for monitoring deployments in terms of running an MSSP type service around Darktrace. And one of the key solutions that we provide is known as the SOC Web Dashboard. So it's basically a tool that allows you to have a single pane of glass around your different customer deployments, pulling all the information into one platform, pretty much like a SOC dashboard. Makes it very easy for your analyst teams or your admin teams to manage Darktrace for your customers. So that comes at no cost, and that's something that we provide our MSSP or services partners as well. We have a full services program that we're currently piloting with some of our key strategic partners. So we, are definitely taking on registrations or requests for partners that would want to participate in that program, and we'll go into that if there are any questions specifically around that. We do run a 30-day trial around our entire product stack. So for customers that want to, test out Darktrace for network or Darktrace for email, we have an innovation series on our partner portal that you can, opt in to test out any or trial any of the products that we have. And this is a free trial where we will ship out hardware if we need to ship any appliances. We'll spin up a cloud environment to run or host our solution if we have to, and basically allow the customer to get a real feel of the solution and test it out in their own environment using their real live data. So we prefer to sell that way because we believe the proof is in the pudding. So actually testing out the solution is always a good way to win your customers. So we have that available for our customers, and we'll also have it for our partners as well. With partners, we specifically drive towards an NFR license, which allows you to run Darktrace in your own environment, like a lab environment, where your customers can actually see how the solution works, where your technical teams can actually play around with the platform in your own safe environment. And then that really helps to ramp up the enablement around Darktrace as well. So the NFR license comes at a slight cost, which takes care of obviously our shipping and just the maintenance of the hardware. But if that's something that you'd be keen to test out and also run in your own environment, we're keen to have those discussions as well. For our elite partners, which is an incentive to ensure that you guys are fully functioning and selling Darktrace, for our elite partners, the NFR license comes at no cost. So that's a nice incentive to keep in mind. Also, on the technical enablement side of things, especially when you're looking at building services around Darktrace or equipping your pre-sales teams to very effectively be able to sell Darktrace, we have certification that they can also acquire, starting with the foundational training, which covers the full Darktrace stack, but gives you a nice baseline understanding of our technology, which is coupled with an essential certification that the teams can acquire. And then for more advanced training for your specialist teams, like your analysts, your engineers, your email specialists, we also have analyst certification, engineer certification, and email certification as well. The training for the certification also comes at no cost. So any individual that really wants to get that solid foundation understanding of Darktrace and full understanding of our technology can participate in the training courses, which they can register for on our partner portal. But the slight caveat is around the certification. There's a slight cost of certification as well. So if there's need to get vouchers, then also moving up into that elite partner category also helps for you guys to acquire free vouchers for the exams as well. So this is all about empowering our partners to be very able to own Darktrace and manage it in their own environment, to be able to not be so reliant on Darktrace to be able to manage their own relationships with customers. And then we are obviously always going to be there to provide that additional support and that collaborative support as we go to market. But we obviously know that we can't be everywhere at the same time based on the team size. So we definitely want to leverage off of you guys to help us get that reach as well. Now, this is just on the enablement and support that you should just be aware that you guys have as we work together. On the technical side of things around how we deploy Darktrace, as Ryan mentioned earlier, we really pride ourselves in being very easy to deploy. Darktrace is not a very complex solution to get up and running. And we'll touch on some of the deployment options as we go along for maybe the next 10 minutes. So as we mentioned earlier, our coverage areas are quite comprehensive. We look at cloud, email, OT, network, zero trust, your SaaS applications as well. So Darktrace is able to really cover your full digital estate, right? Which is a nice value proposition in itself. A lot of our competitors maybe focus on email or focused on network specifically or OT, but from a comprehensive single pane of glass perspective, Darktrace is pretty much alone in this tier of offerings in terms of consolidation, right? So, you can start your journey on the network, you can move towards email, you can move into cloud, you can move into OT. The expansion and scoping opportunities are quite massive there. So we find that a lot of customers might start with network, but then, the integration with email adds a lot of value to provide a lot of context around, the different segments of the environment. Hence, they might move to email and then move to look at our prevent stack, where they're starting to look around proactively mitigating risk and how we can use that to fuel our detection and response as well. So in terms of the journey that a customer can get on with you guys as our partners is massive, and the business opportunities there are also massive as well. So if we were to look at what, a very high level architecture for, the ideal Darktrace customer would look like, it's pretty much as follows, right? Where Darktrace is really at the core of your security stack, meaning we're able to plug into your email, we're able to plug into your physical network, your cloud, your SaaS applications, your endpoints, and give you a nice centralized view of your entire digital estate. Now, this view is not just limited, as we mentioned, to just detection or response. We can also fuel this to help us proactively harden your security in terms of identifying your vulnerabilities and risks, and having this always on feedback loop of different capabilities that are ensuring your cyber resilience across your digital estate. And this is a really major step in leveraging, obviously, AI to really simplify your workflow as security experts and security teams, and not have to rely on different niche siloed solutions to try to manage your risk. So Darktrace is pretty much able to plug into all these different segments, and how we deploy across these segments is also quite unique and different, and I'll touch on that as well. So if we look at as a starting point, if we look at how we would deploy on the physical network, we basically rely on looking at the raw network traffic, right? We need to actually see user communication across the environment to be able to build an understanding of what is normal or anomalous. And what we do basically to have that type of visibility is either deploy a physical appliance on your network to ingest the traffic to expand, or port mirroring on your switches, or we can in the cloud also host a cloud instance to look at your cloud traffic if you have a cloud environment as well. So depending on where we need to provide coverage, that will determine whether we'll deploy a physical appliance or we will deploy a cloud hosted environment. And on the physical network side of things, we prefer to pretty much sit on the core switch, where we can see north, south, east, west traffic, and then forward that traffic to our Darktrace appliance. And we've got different appliances that can handle different volumes of traffic. That's a question we get asked quite often. And as part of a scoping discussion or architecture discussion, which is very crucial in any engagement we have with customers, we'll unpack the deployment options and identify the best method or approach to provide coverage. So just keep in mind that if we're looking at your physical network, or deploying a physical appliance to give us that visibility. Now, some networks are more complex than others, so we might need to deploy, additional probes, which could be virtual probes to lower your hardware costs. But in the very large networks where maybe you have multiple data centers or you're a global business, you might need more than one physical appliance, and that's all factored into the costing and also the architecture, solution architecture as well. In terms of, expanding that visibility to look at your remote workforce, which is something that became a massive requirement during COVID, we have agents that you can also deploy on your endpoints to expand your visibility. Now, that's pretty much limited to remote workforce because there's a slight cost on the agents, but when we unpack, your deployment scope, we will identify which devices would need those agents, and then that can be factored into the pricing. So if you have, managers, executives that travel a lot, that are not always operating on the network and they, use corporate laptops, etc., we're able to deploy those agents to expand our visibility. Now, this extends again to not just detection capability, but also response, right? So if I'm operating at a public airport and maybe my device is compromised, Darktrace is able to pick up on that anomalous activity, detect, and then respond adequately to mitigate the threat there as well. When we're looking at your hybrid deployments, meaning we're not just looking at your physical environment, we're looking at your on-prem private clouds, or we're looking at virtual environments in general. Darktrace is also able to monitor those type of devices like your virtual machines that might be running at your data center to pick up on VM to VM traffic. So we can extend our visibility, not just looking at the physical network layer, but to virtual environments as well. And that's through the deployment of our agents that expand our visibility into those environments as well. So we can spin up a Darktrace virtual machine into a physical host to see the VM to VM traffic, and then we're forwarding metadata to our main appliance that could be sitting physically on your network as well. A lot of questions will come around, the bandwidth, that could probably increase as a result of forwarding traffic. Darktrace addresses that by only forwarding metadata, so we lower the traffic volume significantly that we're traversing across the network. From a Darktrace standpoint, remote workforce, as I mentioned, you have very complex decentralized networks. We cater for that as well. For example, with banks that might have branch sites that we need to monitor, including the head office and the data center. We can deploy our virtual probes at the branch level to mitigate, the hardware costs that could be incurred there. And that just gives us a centralized view across your entire digital estate through a central Darktrace physical appliance as well. So these are, discussions we really get into when we're unpacking your unique architecture as a customer to determine what's the best and most effective, efficient approach of deploying Darktrace in that environment. But just keep in mind that you have those options for physical hardware and then the probes that we can also deploy that are virtual to give you that extended coverage. When we're looking at cloud deployments or hybrid cloud deployments, we have maybe something hosted in AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, and maybe we also have a physical environment. We can deploy Darktrace in the cloud, public cloud as well, through our virtual probes that allow us to extend that visibility to look at traffic, that is hosted publicly, and then, give you that central view with your physical network as well. So, if something is triggered in the cloud, that trickles down to your physical network. You have that, easy ability to monitor for that as well, right? In terms of fully cloud deployments, because we know a lot of customers are migrating to the cloud in certain parts of the world, and to cover for that, we have a full cloud solution that looks at not just your network traffic, but it's also doing attack path modeling. We're doing cloud entitlement, entity entitlement management. We're doing CNAP as well. So you have a lot more visibility that is specifically cloud focused that Darktrace can provide from a solution perspective. So, whether you're hosting in AWS or you're hosting in Azure, our cloud solutions are very extensive in terms of the visibility that they can provide in monitoring your cloud environment and mapping out those cloud architectures for you as well. So From a deployment standpoint, as I said, you have the option of agents. You can also have an agentless approach for deployment where we can ingest flow logs that allow us to monitor the events within the cloud. And then we're looking at, application level. We're looking at, traffic level visibility, and we're looking at your services as well in the cloud. Email, another solution that is very easy to deploy as compared to running a gateway, right, where you have to be in line. Because Darktrace email operates passively, you can get it up and running in pretty much 5 minutes. And that requires just configuring a general rule from your cloud 365 environment to Darktrace, and then authorizing Darktrace to be able to take action via API. So we can then detect, we then adequately step in and respond to malicious mail via API as well. And then we've more recently extended our functionality and capability to step in and block malicious outbound mail as well. So we've got a data loss prevention module that plugs into our email solution to be able to block emails that we deem to be data loss related or unusual leaving the environment. We're also looking at lateral mail. We're also looking at integrations with Teams chats. So it's a very comprehensive email solution that a lot of customers are gravitating to as well. And in terms of coverage, we don't just focus on cloud. We also look at on-prem Exchange, and we also look at Google. So if you have customers that require email from an on-prem Exchange standpoint, you can deploy Darktrace for email. The only difference there is that you would need a physical appliance for that deployment as compared to a cloud-hosted Darktrace environment. But whether it's on-prem, public cloud, hybrid, Darktrace is able to cover both all those key areas from an email perspective as well. When we look at cloud applications like SaaS, 365, Salesforce, Dropbox, Google, Zoom, there's a plethora of different SaaS applications that Darktrace monitors. We also rely on API integrations. It's a very simple, 5-minute integration to authorize Darktrace to ingest the logs from these environments, so that we can pick up on unusual indicators of behavior, such as maybe account compromise, maybe data loss, certain misconfigurations that we're able to then pick up on from looking at the event data. And then we're able to take action via API as well. And actions such as forcing logouts, disabling accounts, the AI solution is able to determine the appropriate actions to enforce there. And it's all about risk mitigation. So depending on the identified risk, Darktrace will then respond accordingly as well. With our prevent stack of products that Ryan mentioned very quickly, we're looking at basically spinning up a cloud instance to give us, to host the data that we pick up around a customer's attack surface. And then we basically prioritize that data and able to highlight, where we pick up vulnerabilities on assets, and then the recommended actions again to mitigate that risk. So it's a very simple solution that can be set up in less than 5 minutes. We just need the company's name. It's a zero scope approach, and then we basically start picking up information about that business and that brand on the internet, and then we start monitoring that attack surface. So it's a very simple SaaS hosted solution that we can get up and running. And the threat intel that you're able to pick up on is what really sells the attack surface management solution as well. Our end-to-end product, which is basically looking at vulnerabilities in your network. The other one is an outside in perspective, giving an outside in perspective, which is the ASM product. But end-to-end looks at vulnerabilities within your network. So we're looking at attack path modeling. We're looking at pen test augmentation. We're looking at cybersecurity awareness. We're looking at also just risk prioritization across your assets in your environment. And because we rely on a lot of data, such as network traffic, email data, endpoint data, there's a lot more integration that's required. So this would typically be hosted locally. And as I said, this is a good upsell opportunity when you're trying to proactively mitigate your risk as well. So from a deployment standpoint, we're basically just activating a license and looking at different data to really map out those attack paths and help you mitigate that identified risk. So this is basically how you would look at deploying Darktrace across your digital estate, looking at the different components and modules and products that you're able to run and deploy. We would typically want to go more in depth with the technical team around, how this actually works, and then also just really looking at, this how you sell Darktrace technically, as pre-sales teams, how you manage Darktrace. And we have, like I said, the portal training that's available. And then we'll also have, one-on-one sessions or catch-up sessions with, people like myself or some of our specialist teams, just to ensure that the messaging and the positioning of Darktrace is very effective with our customers. So that's the journey we'd want to, get on with you guys as well. So I'll just end my slot here. I know we've got a little bit of time left. So if there are any questions, guys, just put them in the chat and then we'll look at them and try to respond. But I'll just hand over to Bonnie at this point. Yeah.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you so much. If there is anyone who have anything to ask or any question, please just refer to the chat, as Derek have mentioned. Okay, so thank you again for joining us this afternoon. My name is Bonisiwe Mandiwane. I am a channel manager for Darktrace. I look after English-speaking countries in Africa, except South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. So Nigeria is one of our biggest regions that Derek and myself are focusing on. We also have, as you have met, Ryan, who is our senior AE, who focus in Nigeria. We also have Mduduzi. He will introduce himself shortly once I have just gone through a few slides on partner program. Okay. So before I could just look at this slide, I just want to give you an overview of the people who are working in your region and the people who are supporting you who will support you as the partners from the Darktrace perspective. As I've mentioned, we have two AEs, which is Ryan and Mduduzi. They are our sales team. They are the ones who will be with you on the customer, doing demos and doing all the conversations around the sales and identifying the opportunity in different customers. We also have a customer success manager. His name is Ruvan. He's not here, but you will surely meet him shortly. He's responsible for looking after the customers once we have transacted. Once the customer is a Darktrace customer, he's the one who assists with reporting, just making sure that the customer is taken care of. We also have Derek that you have met now, who is our technical channel manager. His role is wider than this presentation. So after this session, the partners will then identify partners who are interested in becoming certified. So he is responsible to just help you get those certification. Then it's myself, which I look after everything that has to do with the region that concerns the partners. So looking at the partner program, this is the partner program that was launched this month. So we have 3 levels of partnership. We have preferred partner, premium partner, and elite partner. The good thing about this partner program is that right now, for all the partners who are here on this call, we are starting from level 0. So no, we are just starting at the initial stage, which simply means it will give us enough time to build ourselves from the preferred level to the elite level. Okay. I'm just going to look quickly here as a Darktrace partner. So you will have an access now to our partner portal, as Derek have alluded to it, that is where you're going to be able to do your training. This is where your sales material is going to be at. This is where you're going to be able as well to to put in some door registers and create pipeline. At this point, as a partner of Darktrace, I will say you do have access to the funding, whether you want to do some events or you want to do some webinars or anything that will help you to build your pipeline. Darktrace will be able to support you on those fundings. We also have a door reg system that is, I think every one of us who is here on this call is familiar with it, where we need to put in a dual reg if you are working on those accounts. So Darktrace have also access to dual registration system on our partner portal. Once you have registered the dual reg of the account that you are working on, the next step will be to have now a meeting with our sales team, which will either be Mdu or Ryan, depending who the account sits with. On that meeting, that is when they will do a demo on Darktrace and really do more discovery on what are the customers' pain points. Once the demo is done, and they will also, the customer will be will then be able to explain the POV process to the customer. If the customer is keen to do a POV, then our sales, Darktrace Sales AE, will then do a POV. Align as well with DGIT. I don't want to leave DGIT out on that process. DGIT will be part of the process, or as they are the distributor who will be assisting you in transacting that opportunity. Once the POV is done, then the sales cycle is closing, the opportunity is closed, then we will close it. You will then have access to the customer success that I've mentioned, who then look after your customer. But during the sales cycle, you'll have access to our architectural solutions guys, which is our CTs, who will help you to just do the sizing and give you all the Darktrace technical aspects that you might need on those opportunities. Be able to do the demo. As I've mentioned, our AA are very capable to do the demos. Then we do a proof of value. So what are the benefits of being a Darktrace partner at this point? It is such as I've mentioned, we are starting from level 0. Everyone is starting from an initial stage, which is a preferred partner. Or if you are looking at this slide, it just highlights the benefits of being a partner with us from tier to tier. So from preferred tier, you will get a dual reg discount of 10%. On a premium level, it's 15%. On an elite level, you'll get protection of a 20% discount. Therefore, it becomes now critical for us to grow as in the level of partnership, so that we can secure more discounts for the opportunities that we are working on. And every partner that we have in our books will have access to the partner portal, so that you'll be able to do registers. You'll be able to have access to all the training of our different stack. Okay, we'll also be able to have access to online sales and marketing tools. You'll be able to participate in any reseller incentives that we're going to be having. Here we are looking at some POV incentives that we're going to be running in the next few months. So you'll be able to participate on that as well. You have web-based training. You are able to just get the training through our website, and you'll also be able to have access to instruction-led training. As Derek have spoken about this, you'll also have access to on-prem and cloud, not for sale licenses. It will just depend on which licenses are you looking at. Some of them are at fee, and also it depends on the level of partnership that you are at. For those who are at the elite level, you will then be able to get those licenses at no fee at all. So as I've mentioned again, we are starting at a 0 level. Our partnership will be reviewed in the next 6 months. So next year, January, that is when we will be reviewing the partner levels. All the partners will then know which level do they fall on. So from now, we have 6 to 7 months to just build ourselves or our organization. Then you'll have access to the SOC web dashboard. Those are the things that you just have access into, certification, test fees, and all of that. Okay, so on this slide, we are looking at the requirement. What do you need to do in order for you to move from one level to another? So you'll need to sign up as a partner, our partner contract, regardless of the level that you are in. You will need to start doing the foundation training, which is a cyber sales foundation. That is, we need 2 resources here for preferred partner, for premier partner, for elite partner. Salespeople, we need 2 minimum. For cyber technical foundation, we need 2 resources minimum for across. And for cyber technical professional learning, these are the requirements. Okay, we don't need anyone to be a professional here, but we need 3 here, we need 3 here, we need 5 here, or 4 here in this case. So these are the requirements that each partner needs to go back and look at it, identify the resources who will do this training, and so that when the time of partner review comes, we have all the requirements that are needed in order for us to be put into the highest level of partner level. Looking at Darktrace comparing to other vendors, I must say it's going to be so much easier for all our partners to achieve the highest level of partnership. When we are looking at the training, the resources that are required, even the entry-level partner can really be able to have these resources to do this training, and it's not a hard exams as well from the partners who have done it. It is quite an ordinary exam for someone who is in a cybersecurity space. And looking at the revenue, Ryan did speak about this, that we are receiving so much traction in the Nigeria region. It will be very easy for our partners to get into 5,000 USD. So this is the requirement. In order for you to be an elite partner, you will need to make a revenue of 5,000 USD in a year. Looking at the opportunities and the size of opportunities that we have in your region, really this speaks to 5 opportunities max, but you can get this amount with 2 opportunities, especially when we are starting to sell the platform, not only just detect and respond. When we are now able to be trusted advisors who are advising on a prevent, on a detect and respond, and the heal side, when we are looking at the whole platform and including the email, this revenue is absolutely really easy for us to accomplish. Okay. Any questions around this?
None for now, Bonitiwe.
Okay, I think that will be it from the partner program perspective. One thing that we just can assure you about is that from the conversation that we have had, for any direct that you have, whether if it's coming on our side, you will be protected on that opportunity, and we will just make sure that we are qualifying it correctly as well. If you put in a direct and then when we are qualifying it, we realize that you don't have the right relationship, that direct will be closed, but you will be notified about it. So it's very important that the deal registers that we are putting in are not just deal registers to make noise, but we are strategic in each and every account so that we create less noise for ourselves, but more focus on the opportunities that we have. Cool. So from my side, that will be it. I will be your point of contact, myself and Ameka, from the channel's perspective, but everyone who is involved in the team will be more than happy to assist you with the next step. On my side, the next step will be, we do have the contact people for each partner. The next step will be the partner to identify the roadmap that they want to go in, review the partner program. Where do you want to see yourself in the next 6 months? Identify those resources who will do the training. Once you have done that, we'll be more than happy to then jump on the call that will be focused on your organization now to start the enablement session, to start the training, to make sure that the technical team is ready. When the time comes of the partner review, you meet all the requirements. We also, as I've mentioned, our AEs, we have Mdu and Ryan. They are the responsible to assist you to build the revenue, including the AEs that are from DGIT as well. They have supported us throughout the years, and even now we have amazing opportunities with the DGIT team that we would be keen to just work on those opportunities with you. One thing that was spoken briefly about was the CISO event that we were part of as Darktrace for the FSI event or FSI for financial sector group. or sector, it's really have sparked a lot of interest around Darktrace in Nigeria. That we see a lot of conversation and a lot of opportunities coming out of that. So it is absolutely an amazing time for us collectively as a channel team to work on those opportunities and make sure that our customers have Darktrace in their environment, and not only just, as I mentioned, not only just a singular product, but let us have big conversation now of the whole platform and be strategic on the conversations that we have. I think the accounts that we have in Nigeria are one of the biggest accounts compared to any countries. We are very much alike with SA, South African opportunities, and their average deal size, it's nothing less than 150K. So we need as well to start positioning ourselves and build our deal size as well. Okay, that's it from my side. Thank you so much, colleagues, for joining us. We are here to support you. If you need anything, you do have our contact. Let's keep this conversation going. We do have Mdu. Mdu, are you still here? I'm not sure if he's...
Yeah,
Oh, you're
I'm
still
here,
here.
Bonnie.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe if you can just do a quick intro, because I think you're going to be playing a really critical role in driving the sales and also engaging with our partners so that they may know who you are, and then they'll be able to just get in touch with you as well.
Okay, great. Did you enable my cam? Oh, you did. You did. Good. Hello, guys. Yes, for some of you, we have met, some not yet. My name is Mduduzi, affectionately known as Mdu, and I'm happy to see such a great initiative going by. As Bonnie has mentioned, I'm the account executive for Darktrace covering Nigeria with Ryan. So yeah, I'm really excited to meet you guys, and I'm looking to really join you guys quite often, probably quarterly, and really drive business with you. I'm very encouraged by the amount of work that I've seen in Nigeria and the amount of traction that we've got just from the CISO event, right? And the time that I've spent there, and with some of the discussions I have with in my own presentations with other customers, right? So I'm looking forward to us working together. This is a great initiative. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Derek, and everybody. So yeah, hopefully we really get to make it big, that side. And yeah, good to see you guys.
Thank you so much, Mdu.
Cool.
I'll hand it over to you, Ameka. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ndu. Thanks to all our speakers. We have Damilola, Ryan, Derek, and Bonisiwe. You covered pretty everything we had to discuss here, and we are still on time and on track. We don't have any further questions on the Q&A, but I want to say a very big thank you to all our partners in Nigeria for joining us today. I hope you have found the information that we shared today valuable, and that you've gained a deeper understanding of the Darktrace security solution. I'll say that we truly appreciate your time, and we appreciate your continued partnership with DGIT and with Darktrace. We wish you all the best in leveraging Darktrace ActiveAI to its full potential. If you have further questions, inquiries on demos, POVs, and all, please reach out to me. I'll drop my email address in the chat box so that I could guide you on next steps to go if you need assistance. So at this point, if there are no other questions, I'll say after I drop my email address, we could call it a day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amaka. Thanks so much for the rest of the team for joining. We look forward to more engagement. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye for now.
Bye.